Yeah, so tēnā koutou, it's wonderful to be here, and as you're aware, I'm on secondment to the Impact Initiative from CENT, and CENT stands for the Community Enterprise Network Trust. And one of the things CENT does is that it operates the Zero Waste Network, which is a membership organisation of community enterprises in the waste sector. And we're eager to be involved in the delivery of this program because we can see and have seen the value that government engagement in community enterprise has for our members, but for the sector as a whole. So we got involved in the very, very early days and formed a partnership with Ākina on the delivery. And that's because from day one, the program has really tried to be practitioner-led. It's tried to be informed by people that are running these enterprises or supporting the enterprises on the ground. So we've done that in a number of ways. We've had these kitchen table talks where we go around the country and just have an informal chat with enterprises and people running them and find out what's going on the ground. We've been facilitating a group of more experienced social enterprise practitioners from community enterprise, Māori enterprise, youth enterprise, more than profit enterprise, Pacifica enterprise. And then we've commissioned some reports, one of which is part of a larger whole, which looked at the last 30 years of social enterprise in Aotearoa, New Zealand. So what do we learn from all of this? Well, I guess one of the main outcomes of this activity was the selection of these 4 work streams that we've been working on. You know, trying to work on access to capital, access to markets, impact, and capability development. So that was one of the things that came out of there. But also we've found out that one of the first goal of the program is this idea of trying to have a flourishing social enterprise sector in New Zealand. And I think we've got that. I think we're there. When we've been walking or going around having these kitchen table talks, we've spoken to over 500 people across a whole variety of enterprises, almost 50% of which are actually running social enterprises. And then in the Burl report, we found out there was 3,500 social enterprises and over $1 billion contributed to the local economy. But what we think is also happening is that there's a large bunch of organisations that are social enterprises, but they may not use that term. So there's a whole variety of terms they may be using to describe themselves, and so we may not, it makes it hard to know how big the sector is really. And there seems to be a growing number of social enterprises with the skills and resources enabling them to have a positive impact. We're seeing that a number mature over time. The second aim of the program is understanding what impact these enterprises have. And now this is easy when you're in the field of waste and you can just count how much material you've diverted from landfill. But even in those businesses, what does it mean if we're creating local employment and someone isn't having to commute 40 minutes into a main centre to work, but they're able to work locally? What's the impact of that in terms of roading, in terms of congestion, in terms of carbon emissions? So we've got a lot of work to do to try to measure the full impact of our enterprises. But even for those enterprises that are struggling to measure their full impact, one of the things they are saying to us is that it seems that in the rural sector, in the regions, the line of sight between the problem and the solution seems to be clearer. And so we're finding that when we're talking to people in regional New Zealand, they seem to be able to articulate their impact a lot more easily than they do perhaps if they're in the urban areas. Finally, the part of a larger whole report, that really pointed out that social enterprise exists within a much larger ecosystem of social innovation. And so where do we draw those lines, between what the impact of the larger social innovation ecosystems having versus just social enterprise? So now as we start thinking about the third aim of the program, the issue around government being able to identify what it can contribute longer term and moving forward from this point, the feedback we're getting from practitioners at the moment is, one, that they're really pleased government is actively involved in this space and they're actively trying to add value. They appreciate that. They're really keen for some clarity on what will happen with the legal structures issues and opportunities there, mainly because of what it means for accessing capital. and that they're really keen for place-based support to be encouraged, particularly outside those main cities where they can make it a bit easier to access. So in the coming year, we're going to carry on talking to practitioners. We're going to carry on doing the kitchen table talks, the sector working group, all these things, to then test out these recommendations as we start hearing them back from each of the 4 work streams, key work streams, and make sure that's in line with what the practitioners are saying on the ground. So it's exciting times ahead. Kia ora.